They poisoned his lake to stop him from fishing, but when the truth came out, it wasn't the fish that died. It was their pride. If you love real-life inspired stories where calm men win against arrogance, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful justice stories. The sound of birds filled the air as David Carter sat quietly by his dock, the morning sun reflecting over his small private lake. He had everything he needed: his fishing rod, a cup of coffee, and peace. For David, this lake wasn't just water, it was a legacy, a piece of land his grandfather bought decades ago. He grew up fishing here, learning patience, respect, and silence. After years working as an environmental scientist, he moved back to his family's property to live a simple, peaceful life away from noise. But the trouble started when a new HOA president, Margaret Hill, moved in. Margaret believed she was born to fix everyone else's business. From lawns to mailboxes, she wanted everything to match her perfect vision. When she saw David sitting by the lake with a fishing chair and a cooler, she frowned like she'd just seen a crime. The next day, David found a letter taped to his door. Fishing equipment on the dock violates community standards. Remove immediately or face penalties. David laughed softly. Community standards? This is my lake. He sent her a polite email with property records showing that the lake was private and fully within his land boundaries. He thought that was the end of it. He was wrong. A week later, as he cast his line, he heard footsteps. Margaret stormed down the hill in a pink blazer, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Carter, you can't keep doing this," she snapped. "The HOA board decided your lake activities are disruptive." David stayed calm. "Disruptive to who?" "To the view," she said firmly. "The fishing gear looks unprofessional." He smiled slightly. "Ma'am, I don't fish for appearance. I fish for peace." "Peace or not, you'll be fined $500, she said, scribbling on her clipboard. He nodded politely. "Do what you must." That night, David sat by the lake, watching the moonlight on the water. He thought about his grandfather's words. "When you do good things, son, a world will test your patience." He didn't know the test would come so soon. 3 mornings later, something was wrong. The lake, once clear, had turned cloudy and gray. Fish floated lifeless near the dock. The smell of chemicals burned his nose. David ran water samples to his lab bench inside his garage. His eyes narrowed as he read the results. Toxic pesticide levels, 50 times higher than normal. It wasn't an accident. Someone had deliberately poisoned the lake. He contacted the local environment department. They promised to investigate soon, but red tape and slow bureaucracy dragged the case for weeks. Meanwhile, Margaret spread rumors around the neighborhood. "That man's lake is dangerous. He polluted it himself." David tried to ignore it, but one night, as he checked his backyard camera footage, he froze. At 12:43 a.m., an HOA maintenance truck stopped by his fence. 2 men wearing reflective vests unloaded containers and poured a thick liquid into the lake. The label on the container read, "Weed Eliminator XL." He clenched his jaw. "Got ya." He made 3 copies of the footage, sent one to the environmental agency, one to his lawyer, and kept one in a safe drive. The next day, Margaret showed up again, smiling sweetly. "Mr. Carter, due to the contamination, the HOA will need to take over cleanup. You'll have to grant access to your property." David folded his arms. "You mean the contamination you caused?" She laughed. "Excuse me?" He stared into her eyes. "You'll understand soon enough." Margaret scoffed. "Is that a threat?" He shook his head calmly. "No, ma'am. That's called evidence." And with that, he turned around, closing his door behind him. A week later, the entire neighborhood woke up to flashing lights and cameras. News vans lined the street. Reporters pointed toward David's property, broadcasting live from the dock. "Breaking news! HOA accused of poisoning private lake to harass homeowner." Margaret's phone blew up. She rushed outside, finding 2 environmental officers speaking with David. He stood quietly beside them, showing test reports and footage. "Ma'am," one officer said to her, "did you authorize chemical treatment of this lake?" "It's a community pond," she barked. The officer pulled up a tablet. According to county land records, this lake belongs solely to Mr. David Carter. Her mouth fell open. That's impossible." David handed over her signed HOA directive. The officer read it aloud. "Approved by HOA President Margaret Hill. Treatment scheduled April 6th, 2 a.m. The crowd gasped. Neighbors whispered among themselves. One man muttered, She really did it. The officer nodded grimly. Ma'am, illegal dumping of restricted chemicals is a federal offense. Margaret's face went pale as two deputies walked toward her. David turned to her and said softly, You poisoned my peace for your pride, but peace always floats back to the surface. She tried to speak, but no words came out. That night, local news ran the story across 3 counties. HOA president arrested for environmental crime. The HOA board dissolved within a week. Fines stacked up $250,000 for cleanup and a personal lawsuit from David's lawyer. But David didn't gloat. He didn't post anything online or seek revenge. Instead, he spent his time restoring the lake, filtering the water, replanting lilies, and releasing new fish from his small hatchery. Months later, the lake shimmered again, alive and clear. Kids played near the dock. Families came to see the man who rebuilt what was broken. Margaret, now out on bail, moved away quietly. Before leaving, she mailed David a letter. It read, I was wrong. I let power blind me. You didn't just save a lake, you saved me from myself. David folded the letter, tucked it in his grandfather's old tackle box, and whispered, Forgiveness is the cleanest water there is. The following year, the city named the lake Carter's Haven. A small wooden sign read, This water survived hate, because kindness cleans deeper than revenge. One afternoon, a young boy fishing beside David asked, Mr. Carter, how did you stay so calm when they hurt your lake? David smiled gently. Because the moment you let anger take over, you become what you're fighting against. The boy nodded. David watched his line ripple across the clear water. The air was peaceful again, and this time, no one dared disturb it. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, comment. Kindness always wins. And subscribe for more cinematic moral stories that remind us truth flows back, no matter how many times they try to poison it. Wishing you peace, clarity, and a beautiful day ahead.